Chris here, and today I'm going to be talking about the new album from Aeons of Ashes, the Wasteland Chronicles. Now, before I get into the album, I just want to mention how I was sent all the material for this album, including a very in-depth, drawn-out story where each band member is a character in the story. And I just want to talk about how, reading this really impressive story, I think it could be turned into like a comic or a short story or something like that. But, reading this and getting, into it, it kind of brought the music alive more. And it kind of, also like brings the lyrics to life a little bit more and explains things. So it can kind of, you kind of expanded on the lyrics with this story at the same time, so it kind of gets you more enveloped into it. And I felt like that kind of helped also bring the lyrics to life a little bit more in some of the songs, which I thought was really cool and brings the atmosphere, which I'll be also talking about. There's all these little atmospheric pieces. They're kind of like little intros to the next song, or like maybe a bit of a segue, and they just sort of go into leave one song and into the next, which I thought really add a lot of dynamic and dimension from one song to the other. It almost created this sort of on edge sort of feeling, like in a horror movie, like they would with Halloween or something. From one scene to the next, use this music to sort of help elevate it. I thought actually these little instrumental or atmospheric pieces really did that for a handful of songs on here. But I'll just be talking about like the full length songs themselves. That opening up with Ascendancy, this one I enjoy the dark, aggressive music within this track. It just goes flawlessly with the message and the harsh vocals. The rhythm and bass are very potent, and with the drums really create this huge intensity right off the bat. You're going to get hit with a wave of intensity. And there's also some nifty guitar work tucked in there as well, which I did pick up throughout the album, which I thought was neat. That the sort of lead work, sometimes it was really not in your face, but really predominant, and you could really feel it. Sometimes it was just underneath, and I thought that was really nice because it helped to sort of elevate some of the other instruments and vocals, which I'll be mentioning in a couple of songs here. But the next song, immediately in A Dormant Peril, this is where I really started to feel like the atmosphere, dark atmosphere coming alive. I sense like this disarray that pulls you into the darkness, and that darkness grows into the guttural beast, that sort of comes alive, kind of based around the harsh vocals. The snare and cymbal work I felt just shrieked like banshees in an abyss, which eventually grows into this brief sort of hypnotic interlude, which I thought was really nice. I liked the atmosphere behind that as well. And there was more, lots of crafty technical musicianship in this one. This is where I think the album starts to grow more and more and more, and you get that into Time Is a Lie. This one, I feel like this track is probably one of my top favorites off this album. It was unique, blunt, persistent rhythms, sort of, I won't want to say simplistic. It always sounds like simplistic, but I kind of like sometimes you just got a simple rhythm going along and letting the vocals and the drums sort of go along with it. But with the harsh and scowling vocals, the female vocals here, with this ever-changing lead work and creative drums, really added a lot of dimension. The vocals are very powerful, but there was this one lead underneath that propels them. It was very fascinating because I felt like the lyrics or the vocals, were easy to feel, and they come alive. They're very audible, but there was this lead that sort of just helped sort of elevate them and expand the vocals, and I thought that was really sweet. And I think that's probably why I felt like Time Is a Lie is one of the strongest, my favorite tracks on the album. Now these next two songs I kind of did a pairing of, and that's what I actually kind of found about this album, which makes sense because it is in a story form. I felt like some of these songs, including those little atmospheric pieces I mentioned, I felt like those kind of paired together songs. So I kind of felt like it was separate songs, but at the same time they were together. They're joined at the hip a little bit, and I felt like that with The Alchemist and Requiem. I felt like those two really went together, as well as another pair I'll be mentioning. But these two songs are a badass twist on the album. I felt they had some strange madness within it. Here's where we get to start to play the mind games on this album a little bit more, and we get these strange atmospheres. But You have this shrill guitar work at times that really projects these like sort of frenzied demons, and then you have some also aggressive rhythms and vocals to sort of break that up. But the atmosphere was really interesting how it changed in both the songs. It could be angry then cold, it could be eerie then hysterical. I like these sort of different dimensions that both of these tracks had. Both had some hidden harmonies in there as well. So this is what I mean, is like these weren't just like musicianship, melodic death, you know, elements. This is where the atmosphere started to change and grow a little bit more, became strange, and had these little, you know, like I said, is like mind-bending type of twists in these two tracks. That's why I kind of felt like they went together, along with the atmospheric segues between them and stuff like that. But I just thought they kind of really went together as like a chapter on the album. Then we break away with this one. I think I really liked as well, was really solid, was Walk With Us. This one contained some really creative drum shifts and guitar work. That's probably why I liked it. There was a lot of creative drum stuff on there that I felt was really captivating, along with the guitar work. Then on top of that, we get some dynamic back and forth vocals from the female and female and male vocals, sort of gouging at each other. I felt like they were almost attacking one another, the way they were kind of going back and forth, which I think is kind of a unique sort of element. It's like the two characters are going, you know, toe to toe with each other in the story, you know, and then they're doing it lyrically as well. I was like, yeah, that's pretty sweet. I like when they kind of do that, you know, have a singing performance going, see who can outdo the other one, kind of, you know. It's pretty neat. But I also like the subtle backdrop. Like I said, there's the atmospheres of these tracks started to get sort of strange and funky. There was a bit of a hypnotic twist in the atmosphere to this one as well on Walk With Us. This next track, though, I want to talk about, you know, the lyrics on this one, and The Awakening. In my opinion, it was the best delivered lyrics. How they fit and sung was impeccable to me. They were the way they were expressed. I felt there was just a difference in them, and they almost had like a lyrical rhythm to them. You know, like just the kind of like a drum beat or something, or not. I'm not necessarily saying like they're rhyming like an Alice Cooper song or something. They're rhyming. There was just this lyrical rhythm to them. I felt like that sort of brought them to life even more. And I felt like even though they're harsh vocals, they still felt very audible. I could still really hear every sort of, you know, every word, every, you know, element of the lyrics and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty impressive when you're a harsh vocalist and you can bring that, you know, every syllable and every word to life, and bring them audible to a song, especially if the song's aggressive. You might get sort of watered, you know, out of that. But you know, there was a really good job on the harsh vocals here in The Awakening to really create that element of coming forward. Now we're moving on to another pair of songs that I put together as a chapter, and they kind of make sense if you look at if you think of the titles, The Realization and Surrealization. These have many good nuances, which I think creates memorable moments within these two songs, and stands out on the album. That they felt like they really harnessed some really good rhythm and lead guitar work that really leapt out at me as well. More creative and crafty drum work as well on there, with great tempo shifts that really forced like a high pulse, you know, pounding energy to it, along with vocals that sort of kept you on edge. Very intense vocals here, very angry, like even angrier, that if you can sort of imagine that from harsh vocals. I felt like both had a lot of depth to them and cool dynamics in there. So you have these two songs, once again, they kind of go together as a chapter, as I felt. And I kind of like that sometimes you do that, especially in a story-based album, that like songs connect. They differentiate from each other as well at the same time, like they're not identical or something like that, using like the same, you know, tempos or the same rhythm, you know, templates, but to sort of connect each other. But they're similar feel, atmosphere, but at the same time they have their own identity as well. I felt like that happened on, you know, the chapters that I sort of felt in this album. Next thing I'll jump down to is the last song on the album, The Night Darkness Died. And I just felt like this one had a great, this one had its own identity that really stood out, because I felt like there was this great mixture of relief and a pinch of hope in there. And I felt like that was something I didn't feel on any other song on this album, and that's where you sort of get it here. But then you get like from this lead, you know, this pinch of hope and relief from the lead work, and a bit of the atmosphere as we're building. But then as you're building building. It's almost like you're falling into this descent into the abyss, and the rhythms and the drums and the vocals seem to crush that hope. And I kind of like the way this song felt. It was the way it did really help kind of end the album off perfectly with this song that had it's like, oh, we're finally, you know, relieved of everything, all the anger and darkness is gone, and then it's like, oh no, we're gonna smash it one last bit. And I was like, that's a perfect way to close out the album, with The Darkness Died. Just the whole feel of that song. Quite a few hooks from all directions on that track as well. A lot of crafty musicianship I felt from Aeons of Ashes on the Wasteland Chronicles. I really thought the story was great, and how it played out lyrically and musically and everything. The little instrumental pieces and atmospheres, I think they just really, there's a lot of thought into this album, a lot of creativity. I can't imagine how many hours the musicians sat here, spent just trying to figure everything out, feel it. It was really uncanny. I thought, like, there's a lot of work that went into this, and I hope you guys check out Aeons of Ashes, the Wasteland Chronicles. If you're not into melodic death, just maybe check it out, because they try to hear all the depth that they put into this album. I thought it was really impressive, and something you definitely do not hear much of when it comes to, story albums and stuff like this. It's definitely a lot of work, and it's really impressive. So all the links, of course, will be in the description below. For the Wasteland Chronicles and music, and links to the Bandcamp and stuff like that. And I got also my other channels and things like that as well down there, my Bandcamp and stuff like that. But I've been rambling on. Cool album though. Thanks for Rainer for sending me this and reaching out to me and showing me Aeons of Ashes, the Wasteland Chronicles. And until next time, folks, how about some heavy listening?